Morning, morning.
Morning to you.
Hi, Tuesday. It's only Tuesday.
Only.
Where'd you park your car?
6 inches
That's
of
not
rain
the
this past
attitude.
week, right? It's only Tuesday. Hey, we are talking about something serious today. Today marks the first day of the opening statements in the Jeremy Christian double murder trial, in which he's accused of 2 first-degree charges of murder, attempted murder, from the max stabbings from 2017. He does not dispute that he killed these people. What is at issue is his mental status at the time, and he pled not guilty for reasons of
Mental disease and defect.
Mental disease. So that comes into play. He also has said he didn't even notice these 2 young black teenagers. One of them was wearing a hijab that was on the MAX train. He says, I didn't even see them. I was just spouting free speech, which is what I like to do. It wasn't racist. It wasn't aimed at them. I have the right to speak freely on a train. And people came up and put their hands on me or interfered with him in some way, he argues. And that's what started it all. So
we also haven't seen the video surveillance from the train, but our Maggie Vespa was saying that people who have seen it indicate that basically his version of events, as far as the pushing and the kind of jostling prior to the crime, did happen. So
we want to know, do you guys care about this case? Does this interest you in any way? Watching some of the in-depth coverage that our team has been doing and really kind of digging into the issues in this case, because we cover, you know, frankly, murder cases a lot. This is a very high-profile one that really affected the community, but it also kind of goes back to think back to that time in 2017 of not just Portland, but the country. And, you know, you had the recent election. We saw very violent protests and marches through downtown. Windows were smashed, people were hurt, you know, lots of people were arrested. And then you have Jeremy Christian, who we saw several weeks before as a self-proclaimed white nationalist, you know, marching in some of these events around the city. But I want to know, like, as a TV station in this market, and we're, you know, putting all this effort toward really getting to the heart of these issues and covering this trial every day. Do you guys care? You know, what do you think about this? And we've been getting comments. I posted this question on Facebook and Twitter today. I want to read a couple of them as you guys kind of consider and let us know, and type in live. We can see your comments. We're watching you on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook Live. So producer Jess, if you could throw up that tag board, I'd love to kind of share some of those comments with people. We can't, there it is. Okay, so Sheila said, my opinion is that it's given too much media attention. What he did was horrific, but let it play out in the court, not in the media. Thank you, Sheila, for your opinion. Next up, we have Troublemaker. I like that name. He was yelling, and he was attacked by 3 men and defended himself. This is not a opinion that we hear very often, but that person defending Jeremy Christian and on the side of his defense attorneys. Sarah Adams says, well, it's not like there's any real doubt of his guilt. I didn't realize it hadn't been tried already. It's just sentencing now, she feels like. Up next is Yukio. And this was on Twitter. Are you looking for honest opinions or the opinions that fit your narrative? We all know you already convicted this man. You already executed him. If you really cared about honesty, you would stop calling him a murderer in your reports. Now, we always describe him. He is charged with murder in the first degree 2 times, attempted murder 1 count. We always say he is accused of launching a racist rant, and then police say he is accused of, you know, I mean, slashing these men's throats, really.
And he
admits that
he admits to killing them.
Yes.
So
that part is not in dispute.
Yeah.
It's the what motivated and what state of mind he was in.
Right.
But there are no disputing the facts of the actual killings.
And I kind of put on this case, and tell me if you guys agree or not, but I was thinking about this last night because we launched that new excellent if you haven't checked it out. It only debuted last night. It's called The Story with Dan Haggerty. It's at 6 p.m. It's a brand new format of the way to give you the news. And they did almost a 10-minute long piece, Maggie Vespa did, on this trial. And really, I was thinking about it afterwards, and like, this is, yes, it is a murder case, and unfortunately, we do report on those very often. But to me, this is, you know, about mental health, which is, you know, tied to the homeless crisis. And this man was partly a transient living with his parents and couldn't hold down a job. That was all in Maggie's report. It's about free speech. He was just arguing, I can, you know, say whatever I want as free speech. Mm-hmm. These people intervened in my, you know, First Amendment right. Second Amendment, right? First Amendment.
First Amendment.
Some of our amendments.
It's all right.
First Amendment, yeah.
Continue.
It's about free speech. It's about mental health. It's about standing up for people that, like those two girls that were on the train, that maybe would not have felt comfortable standing up for themselves. It's also about, you know, like the social divide in our country right now.
So people are weighing in
that way.
on our Facebook, and just to kind of dovetail from what you were saying, Jamie Ralston, good morning, says we need better mental health before, in all caps, someone like Jeremy is able to take another person's life.
Yes.
And then again, Patty Christian says, I haven't heard anything about it. I guess I haven't watched the news lately.
And
So
isn't that fascinating,
really,
because we live this every day?
Exactly. Wide-ranging opinions, and just Brian Malley says death penalty, which is off the table. He is not. That is not even a possibility for him.
Ryan Moon chimes in. Good morning, Ryan. We see his name pop up on our Facebook feed most mornings here on Sunrise Extra. Ryan Moon says, let's see, do I care? Well, I care for the victims. I have no care whatsoever, though, about him, Jeremy Christian. Okay. He says he should get harsh punishment. In my opinion, his mental defense is hot air. His lawyers are mental, thinking that that is a good defense. And that brings up what I was thinking the whole time you were talking about this. And it's sort of a point that also came up yesterday in coverage of the Kobe Bryant story. The people that were, if there was anyone that was upset with the coverage of Kobe Bryant, they were upset that too much attention, in their opinion, was given to this one individual because of his celebrity status, and not enough attention was given to the other victims in the helicopter. And I think, how does that play into this story? You may be asking. I'm thinking a lot of times people go, what's the big takeaway from the Jeremy Christian story? It's that 2 people were killed that day.
Right.
To me, that's the biggest takeaway from that story, is that 2 lives were lost because of what happened on that day. And yet, whenever we see a headline for that story, whenever that story comes into the news, whenever we bring it up, the first name we hear is Jeremy Christian. Now, I don't know how else to tell that story. Should it be led off every time with, remember when 2 people died on a MAX train 2 years ago? The man accused of those murders, Jeremy Christian, you know. But that's, I think, what upsets people the most, and that's what, to me, what Ryan Moon is suggesting. It's that a lot of attention is given to the man that committed the crimes, and not enough attention, perhaps, given to the people whose lives were lost that day.
Well, yes, well said. I totally agree. On YouTube, we're seeing your comments. Thank you for you guys writing in. Lone Caucasian male, thank you for commenting. Let's see.
I comment every day on the show.
He says, it's because, he says, I care deeply. It's because the media has to paint him in a bad light in order for him to get convicted, because what he did really was borderline self-defense. Let's see. But also he calls him a crazy man with a knife. What do you do?
Ginny Carlson says cover accountability. Lots of wrongdoing in the race/hate issues in Portland. Even if this never happened, we still have problems. Balance is important. You know, I have to say that covering this and reading about it and just thinking about it, it is such a shame that it came to this. Clearly, again, I'm just trying to noodle it through in my own mind. The people on the train felt that there was a real threat to the girls. Just by virtue of their actions, they wouldn't have put themselves in that position. They couldn't have seen what was coming initially. But, you know, my personal reaction is, if I see something happening and I'm like, can we usher the girls away? I mean, they're in a train car. I don't know. Can you get away?
Right.
Whatever was being said must have been so inflammatory that they're like, we have to step in. But then you put your hands on somebody and it's escalating it to another, like, I don't know, maybe he would have done that anyway. Maybe Jeremy Christian would have pulled out a knife anyway.
Right.
Maybe
and we haven't
he wouldn't
seen the
have
video.
felt I don't know.
And that's how those situations play out all the time.
Would they have been alive? I mean, that's the bottom line. It's like such a shame that these two
if they did
men.
not. You're asking that question.
Yeah, would it have just been a rant or would it have been violent? And there's no way to know that, but you kind of go over it in your head and think, God, I wish they were still here, you know, for their families. And it's just, it's so,
I mean,
so
it's
It is
horrible.
interesting because now we are seeing, I mean, this has been in the news now for almost 3 years, right? It goes back to 2017. And today, when you're reading those comments from those people who are essentially, in some ways, coming to his defense, I hadn't heard that for 2 years. Anyone really defending his actions. I mean, maybe I was missing those parts of the story. But like you said, it's you can't play out the future to see what would have happened because if no one had stepped in that day and he had harmed those women, then the reaction was, man, how many people were on that train? Why didn't someone step up and do something? Why didn't somebody grab him before he, you know, stabbed those young women? It's like all these what ifs. I never for a second questioned the actions of those men who stepped up and put their hands on him that day to try to stop what they thought was an ugly situation that could have gotten a lot worse. But now we are hearing from people that are defending that side.
And at the time, people did talk about that. I remember those conversations in just the public sphere of escalation. You know, they did what they thought that they had to do. I'm giving them that benefit of the doubt. But, you know, you never know until you get into one of those situations what you'll do. Sometimes you just straight up react. You don't really think. You feel something and you are springing into action.
Now we are getting into the details of the case again right now, which is fine. But I know that, you know, one of the original topics that we thought we would bring forth today is, do you care?
Do you care? Hey, Jess, can we pull up
Do you
that
care about the
Facebook
case?
post?
Are you wanting all this coverage?
Yeah, we've been posting really deep dives into this story, and this one was posted the other day. It has about 111 comments on it, and a lot of people, let me kind of read through some of these. Becky Lewis, so sick of seeing this guy's face. Sarah Dawson, I am so over the publicity of this psycho. Doey Cush, what I need to know is that he gets locked up and throw away the key. Greg Myers, mainstream media promotes horrible people like this for ratings and to upset you. Wake up. Let's see. Peg Clary, why is this so important? What stuff do we not know? I'm confused. So yeah, I mean, I'm wondering like how you guys feel. Is this too much coverage of, you know, reporting every single day from a court case like this? I mean, that's our job. That's our duty. Whether you, I guess, you know, want to know about that or not, you can choose to click on it.
Not to consume or
I think the answer to that last viewer's comment when she says, what's new, what don't we know? The answer to that, right, would be this video that we haven't seen yet that Maggie Vespa.
We don't know blow by blow. I mean, you know, it's a bad choice of words, but like exactly what happened first, second, third, fourth to make this.
And there's a whole other question of, do we need to know that as a general public? You know, do we need to know all that information? But the question of, you know, what don't we know? We don't know that. We didn't see the video that is out there that our reporter Maggie has seen herself. So that is still out there that tells the story of what led up to those horrific events. I want to point out the comment that I saw here from Sheila. And Sheila, I don't think you work in the news media, but you make an excellent point in your statement here, which as someone who's in the news media, I can say there is truth to what you say. The news media has taken over such a large time slot that they have to keep stories alive. I mean, the fact of the matter is we are filling a lot of the day now, more so than we were in the past. I mean, it's been like this for 20 years, but more so than we were.
You can fill it with other, you know, we can easily fill it with other stuff. Like that's what we do every day, is find stories, and we can find other stories. That's why, part of the reason why literally our news director wanted us to talk about this, to gauge your interest, and you know, maybe it changes our coverage of like, you know, what do you guys want to know in this case? And if it's, you don't want to know about this and you just want to know the outcome, you know, it's almost like a choose your own adventure situation now, you know, like we can change how we cover this.
Every day we make decisions on what is the lead story of the day, right? And that can be one of the most difficult decisions made each day in the newsroom. You know, we put the Sunrise Show on at 4:30 in the morning. Our producers are working overnight, scratching their head going, what is the most important thing? What is the most important to our viewers? I mean, we're not doing it for ourselves. The idea is to hit on what you guys find most important. And when it snows, 6 inches in downtown Portland and the entire valley is covered in snow, easy day for us in terms of decision making. We know that you all care about that. You want to know more. How much more snow are we going to get? Those are easy. When it comes to this one, I question every day, how many people, when we lead off with, here's the latest on the Jeremy Christian trial, how many people go, turn, that doesn't really strike any buttons in me. I'm not interested. To me, that doesn't hit home with everyone. Now, again, that doesn't mean it shouldn't be the lead story in our newscast. And I don't know if we're trying to hit a certain number, 50% and above, or maybe we're okay if it only affects 35% of you. Maybe that 35% is important enough to make that the lead story. But that is a tough question every day for us, is what is the most important story that we can present to you each day and call it our top story. Now, the fact that our 6 o'clock show spent 10 minutes on it last night, that's a decision that we made.
And I watched that last night, the story with Dan Haggerty, and I thought it was really interesting, the reporting that Maggie did. She took a psychological profile from a doctor, and the psychological profile, as I recall, was ordered by his defense attorney, and just gave some insight into the things that he said and his state of mind. And to me, just as a person who's lived in this community a long time and also has a child who, grown child, but still my child, who rides MAX and rides public transit, that just shook me up. I know it is something that is very, very unusual, but I wanted to know about it. I wanted to know what happened. I wanted to know who this person was. I wanted to know his backstory because we've covered it before. I wanted to know who these victims were, who these men were. To me, again, and I am a newsie, but I am very fascinated and curious, and I want to know what happened. I also think that as the news media, we get into the churn, where what I don't want to see is just repetition without context.
Yes.
Just, 30 seconds, 20 seconds of the same thing with, arraigned today, back in court today, whatever it was. You have to give me something that gives me some insight into what is happening. And, to your point, with the news hole getting large, and I think of cable news especially, they're on all the time. If you have it on at all, you just start to cycle through the same thing, the same thing, the same thing. Not everybody does that, and it is so easy to do this, and that's what I do as a viewer at home. Okay, no, there's nothing else new done. That doesn't mean that you can't turn it on and pick it up at a different thing, but that to me is choice. I feel like if we completely say, I just want to tell you what you want to hear. I just want to tell you what you're interested in. Is that news? It may be news in 2020. Maybe that's what it really is. I only want to talk to you because and you know what, that, if I want to get on my soapbox, is pandering in a way. Because we want, I'm going to say the corporate, because I feel like I don't approach my job that way, but we want your money, we want your eyeballs, we want to monetize, because news is not a loss leader anymore, it's a for-profit business.
Look around this room.
Come on now.
This is not a cheap room,
Come
right?
on now.
There's a lot of equipment in here.
And you vote with what you watch. And to your point, we absolutely do listen to people. Long before we ever had social media, people would call, and I'm like, you know what, if you don't like something, I highly recommend that you call the news director or the assistant news director, because they listen to that lone call.
That's the customer.
One email. Absolutely it is. And I don't know that we should we need to give it context and have some, I would hope, expertise in what it is to make it relevant.
Yes.
Yeah, and Nina read a comment from someone who said, I haven't heard anything about this. Maybe that person is only viewing what they want to view or what they're interested in, and making that choice on their own, and that's why they haven't seen it.
Yeah, we have to make people care about it if it's worth caring about, if there's other higher implications, or what it says kind of about our community or something.
Yeah, we have to put it out there so they can decide. We don't have to make them do it.
Okay, you guys, keep letting us know in the comments if you're watching this later in the day. Second topic of the day, much lighter. but still just as interesting. So in Washington, this is brand new, so there's no voting on it yet. A bill was introduced in the Washington legislature yesterday that would ban any sugary drinks from children's menus at restaurants, just from them written down on the menus. They're still
listed.
offered for sale. You can still say, hey, I want a Coke for my kid, but you won't see it written on the menu. So the only thing that would be on the menu is milk, water, and like
milk substitutes
like almond milk or whatever. What do you guys think of that? Do you think the government should be telling restaurants what to put on children's menus? Should restaurants just do it if they want to?
Oh, look now at our poll. It's 64-36.
Yeah.
That was super close when we were on the air during Sunrise. And now the no's have
Drew?
won out.
Well,
Take it away.
Kids took over the voting.
I know.
I'm all in favor of this
thoughts on this?
idea of the sugary drinks being taken from the menu. But then you two, Nina and Brenda, two bullies over here, you were quick to remind me it's not just about that. It's about should the government be the one to dictate that those drinks are not on the menu. And you know what? You're right when you put it that way. I guess you're right. I don't like this idea of government having that kind of control. But I really do like this idea of the sugary drinks not being listed as an option on kids' menu. So, if you're telling me, hey, the restaurants are not going to do it on their own, it's going to require someone to step in, then I'm going to say, darn it, you know what? How about we have an agreement? Let's spend less time on raising my property taxes and more time on getting sugary drinks off of kids' menus. How about that? I'm down with that idea.
What's your main thing with this? Is just because when you go out to dinner with the boys, they're like, "Well, I want the chocolate milk."
Our guys
or the
are pretty good. You know we know it becomes awkward, and you guys will probably agree. Anyone that has kids that's watching, what becomes awkward is when you go out with multiple families. And we had a pretty good like a threesome. It was our family of four, another family of four, and there was a third family of four. And it was kind of a nice deal because the one family, they were totally okay with their kids having the chocolate milk or the lemonade or the soda.
Yeah.
The other family, no way in heck. You guys are having milk or water. And then we were kind of floating in between, but I always felt bad for like the other, I'm telling me, I'm like, do not let Caleb and Chase have root beer tonight, because I felt bad for the other two kids that couldn't have it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe if there four of us aren't having it, then the other two will I don't know.
It's your choice.
I just know that our kids do not need sugary drinks. They are bouncing off walls as it is. I mean, what good comes from it? They become hyperactive. Ours do. Not yours, maybe. That surprises me if that's not true.
Yeah.
It's bad for their teeth.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't like all the, I like the dentist's office visits where they go, hey, no cavities, kids. Great, we'll see you in 6 months.
Yeah.
It affects their sleep.
Yeah.
To me, the sleep is so important. If they're even drinking soda, even if it's not a caffeinated, because they still don't drink Pepsi or Coke, my kids. It's like root beer is like the big treat.
Which no caffeine.
No caffeine, but it still has enough sugar to put them through the roof.
I do love some root beer.
And it affects their sleep. Now, I do become a nice dad when it comes to ice cream. Ice cream is always on the table. To me, there's the other thing. It's like, I know you're going to probably have ice cream tonight. Do you have to have a
Coke
and sugary drink at dinner too?
But you seem really passionate about it.
Right.
Why the hell do you need the government and a law?
Yeah,
You could
just
say
say no.
Yeah.
Because the guilt.
I don't even. You're so passionate about it.
I'm with the bully.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not that passionate about anything. Sometimes I get passionate, like I was 45 minutes ago, and then somewhere along the way I lose the passion. The passion is lost. But I guess I do get tired of that. Like, I was annoyed by my kids not saying no. No, that's a parenting problem.
Yeah.
Our kids don't have a problem with the word no. Now, we don't give in, but we still sit there and debate about this and everything.
Yeah. So you think literally if they didn't see it on the menu, if they just saw milk, water, like they wouldn't think of it?
No, they would. And I'd say, I don't think you can get it. I don't even see it on the menu. And they would believe that. Now, again, not so much now at 12. I'm going back to when they were 7, 8, and 9.
Sure.
Yeah. What do you think, Lacey?
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of with Drew. Like, there's no nutritional value to those drinks.
Right.
So why offer them?
The government say it.
Right.
I mean, sometimes,
Because what's the next thing they're going to say is the argument,
but
right?
People need help making good decisions sometimes, or like getting more information about what they should and shouldn't eat, and what's good for them. So I think in that regard, it might be a good idea just to get more information out there.
It may seem crazy to people who have done a lot of research on this, but I believe that there are still people who don't realize how bad those things can be for themselves or their kids. This is getting preachy.
That's not a legislation thing.
Chris,
right?
what do you
It's not right now, but it could be, Brenda.
I don't know. I'm kind of with you guys.
What guys? These guys? These guys?
These ladies. I think it's personal choice, and it's always a constant battle between personal choice versus we're going to make this choice for you. And yeah, I think Lacey did bring up a really good point that like it's sometimes people need help making educated choices, but you know what? There's a little bit of the education that's on you.
Right.
You got to get educated.
And as far as debating kids, my parents used to say, the
You can't
conversation
win.
is over. We're done. We're done talking
And
about
I think this conversation.
I like how you
is
just
over.
wrapped that up too.
I did. I
Brenda
got
just
today's show
tapped out.
cut in.
Go,
Bye, you guys.
go, go.
Love you, mean it.
Good day.